And welcome to MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week podcast, July 4th. We're talking all about the fun things in baseball, July 4th. Mets goes Matz, and a whole lot more on this edition of MLB This Week, the podcast. And hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week Talking Baseball. It's MLB This Week, the MLB This Week show. My name is Rich.
And I'm Gary.
And Gary, happy 4th of July to you. And baseball on the 4th of July goes hand in hand, of course.
Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, Mom, all American.
That's it. Of course, one of the best known remembered speeches on July 4th was one by a very sad speech, by the way, the famous Lou Gehrig from the Yankees. And that's a speech, Gary, I guess it'll never be forgotten.
I guess not, Rich. That was something, man, faced with his own mortality, and gave a great speech at Yankee Stadium. Of course, we're talking about the luckiest man on the face of the earth speech.
Yeah. Yeah, Lou Gehrig that season, he only played 8 games, drove in 1 run, and he only hit 143 before he officially retired. And what a sad but uplifting speech he gave to the fans in attendance. And Gary, how about this story about the 4th of July? One game involving your favorite team, the New York Mets. They needed 19 innings to beat the Atlanta Braves 16-13 on a rainy July 4th night in 1985. Dwight Gooden started and Ron Darling finally closed it out for the Mets. But a long wait for the fans. Fireworks didn't start till 4 a.m., if you can believe that.
I believe it, Rich, because I remember that game, and I remember watching a little bit of it. I was at a friend's house for a 4th of July celebration, and we had a couple of adult libations, and went back into the house and said, let's see what's on TV. It was like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, or maybe even a little bit later than that. And what pops up at the ball game, we said, wow, this must be on tape or something. And then found out that this was the days before the internet and everything, that they were in a rain delay, and that was indeed the live game. And we had something to watch as we had a few more adult libations. And then, of course, they had the fireworks go off at, like, as you say, 4:30, 4 o'clock, something like that in the morning. And I guess the people in the neighborhood didn't know what the heck was going on.
Yeah. Keith Hernandez hit for the cycle in 10 at-bats, and Gary Carter caught all 19 innings for the Mets. Wow, still 10,000 fans left to see the fireworks show that late at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Well, you pay your money. You want to see those rockets go up.
Yes, indeed. So we're all psyched about our 4th of July show here. We've got a lot of great topics for you, some of the news that you may not have heard during the week in baseball. And Gary, one of the better stories coming out of New York these days, you've got the first story up today.
Well, Rich, we talk about our teams, the Mets and the Phillies, but this truly was a terrific story for the Mets, as well as for this young man, Steven Matz. He is a local kid from Long Island. He grew up as a Mets fan, and he finally got to make his major league debut. And what a debut it was! He is the first player on the Mets with 4 RBIs in his MLB debut. He's the first MLB pitcher since 1914 to have 4 RBIs in his MLB debut. And he's the first Mets pitcher to have 4 RBIs in a game since Dwight Gooden in 1990. And very exciting. He went 3 for 3, pitched 7.2 innings, 7 2/3 innings, 3 for 3, and had 4 RBIs. And this was just his first game in the major leagues. And he had 200 family and friends there. And in fact, his grandfather, who was 82 years old, actually went viral. He became an internet sensation with his reaction. And let's see if we've got it right here. You can see him there, the father. Let's see if we can play that. There's the second hit. It's a line drive he drove into. And the grandfather got up and said, "Holy," it's something we can't say on the radio, but it was great. You could really enjoy the family, and you could feel how excited they were that this young man, who really has traveled the long road. He was drafted, signed with like 6 minutes left on a clock to sign. Literally at the last minute he signed, and did not play that year. Went to spring training, blew out his elbow, had to get Tommy John surgery, and it took him 3 years to recover from that. So from the time he signed, it took him like 3 years before he threw his first professional baseball pitch. And he was really kind of forgotten as a prospect by that time. And lo and behold, he just burnt through the minor leagues and has been just fantastic the last 2 years. Was great this season, and they said it's time because he's just getting bored down in AAA. And Steven Matz, hopefully he's here to stay with the New York Mets for the next 10 years. And what an opening. You know, you couldn't really write a Hollywood script any better than what he did on Sunday.
Yeah, it's an amazing story coming out of New York where, you know, there's a lot of great stories. And one of the stories about Matz is, I was researching this before the show tonight, he actually has a sandwich named after him.
Yeah.
From a delicatessen. It's called the Seaport Delicatessen in East Setauket, New York. Hope I'm saying that right.
Yes.
But yeah, essentially it's a chicken cutlet sandwich with melted Jack and cheddar cheese, bacon, lettuce, tomato, and pepper house dressing on a toasted garlic hero. So they've been selling a lot of those Matz sandwiches, especially since he's made it up to the big club and he's had such a great first game with the Mets.
And I think, Rich, you got to be 24 to be able to eat that.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's that's quite a sandwich there. So you happen to be around that delicatessen there, you might want to try one out.
And like I said, it was really great to see all the family and the friends in the stands there supporting him on, and their pure excitement over everything he did. And, you know, Rich, it didn't look good in the beginning because the first batter, he actually gave up a home run to the first hitter. And then you were thinking, oh, man, you know, the kid's in the first pitch, he threw almost over the catcher's head. He said he was nervous, but then he settled down and only gave up another home run. But once they got the lead, boy, he bared down, and it was beautiful. Pitched a great game.
Yeah, it's amazing. So another great story, kind of a storybook year for the Mets as we're going through the 2015 season a lot faster than we realize here. We're almost up to the All-Star break as well.
Yeah, it's July is here, and Rich, it's just flying right by. And you've got some things going on in your favorite team in Philadelphia.
Yeah, big news up there. Ryan Sandberg, of course, the Hall of Famer, famous for his Cubs playing days. He was originally drafted by the Phillies way back in the late 70s and traded over to the Cubs. Made it official when he resigned from the Phillies, and we have a little soundbite from his resignation here. It was a very surprising resignation as well. It caught everybody by surprise, including GM Ruben Amaro. So let's listen to some of that.
And a challenging day, and a tough day for myself. But I am stepping down as manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. It's not an easy decision. In a lot of ways, I'm old school, and I'm very, very much dissatisfied with the record, and not pleased at all with that. And I think that goes hand in hand with being a manager. So it's been a difficult thing to swallow, but I have thought about it for some time, and we've come to this day.
So that's Ryne Sandberg explaining his reasons for leaving the team before the All-Star break. Of course, prior to his announcement, Gary, there was rumors that a new president was going to be hired with the Phillies, a guy named Andy MacPhail that used to be with the Minnesota Twins and also the Chicago Cubs. And Ryne got wind of that, and of course he didn't have a good relationship with this gentleman. He never hired him as the Cubs manager. He had spent 4 years in the Cubs minor leagues coaching and managing, but they never brought him up to the big club. So when he got word that Andy MacPhail was going to be hired as the president, he was out like scout, so to speak.
So I guess he kind of knew he was going to get out now or at the end of the season with MacPhail there, and figured he'd just take matters into his own hands. At least that's the way it seems.
Yeah, it's a shame. Had MacPhail not been hired, I don't think he would have quit in midstream like he did. Of course, a lot of talk after that saying about no one would want to give him a chance again after quitting on a team in mid-season. And you don't really hear too many managers just out and out quitting off of a baseball team these days.
And especially a losing team, it's like it doesn't look good. I mean, I'm sure he has his reasons, and but really, I don't know. I think I would have tried to go into, unless there's a health issue involved. I think I would have tried to make it, as you say, unless he's just tired of, maybe he doesn't want to manage. Maybe he thought he did and enjoyed it in the minor leagues because he was probably teaching more and developing talent, and he got to the majors and maybe he just didn't like it. Maybe it was too much bull involved.
Yeah, that's got to be a tough season day after day when you're losing and things like that. But we want to see him succeed and do well with whatever he decides to do after his Phillies career. So we'll always have a special part in the Philadelphia area for Ryne Sandberg, that's for sure.
Any idea how his minor league coaching record was? Was he successful at all, or? It
wasn't too bad. He was, I believe he was above 500, especially with the Phillies. He spent 2 seasons coming up through the Phillies minors, and then I guess was promised a spot at or a chance at managing the club, especially when Charlie Manuel started to falter there and the Phillies were turning towards the bad way. But yeah, that was the deal. I think he was brought over to put his time in with the Phillies, and especially in the minors. And then eventually he'll get his chance at the big club, which he had. And granted, as the team has declined, it's next to impossible to turn out a winning club. So he was in a tough spot all the way around.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. Sometimes when you leave a losing club like that, it just really does look bad. Unless he just doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, and that's always possible. A lot of travel, a lot of time away from the family, and it's a big commitment. So we'll have to see what lies next for Ryne Sandberg. But we wanted to thank all of our listeners for joining into this edition of MLB This Week. We're an independent podcast, not sponsored by any team or baseball itself, just independent And so we can say basically what we want. So we like that. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, follow us at MLBThisWeek. We're right there on Twitter. You can read some of our comments when we do our shows, things like that. And you can also sponsor us now because we're listener supported. Just go to our website. It's MLBThisWeek.com. We have a link to our Patreon page. You can make a small donation. And we're still waiting for that first listener to step up and make their monthly pledge of only $2 a month.
I'm recycling the same hats, Rich.
Yeah, we got the washer filled with hats. We need some fresh, new hats and materials so we can wear, at least on the YouTube video.
Yeah. That's for sure.
For our listeners that listen to the podcast, well, they don't care, but anybody that watches the show on YouTube, which of course you can do that as well. Part of the show is streaming on YouTube, and we go from start to finish, usually in one take. We don't filter anything in. So what you see on YouTube is the real deal.
It certainly is.
Well, Gary, you have a sad bit of news here, and something that I heard a little bit about during the week.
Well, Rich, yeah, this is a sad story. Former Major Leaguer Darryl Hamilton was killed, I believe it was last Sunday, about 8 to 10 days ago in Texas, in what was an apparent murder-suicide. The Houston Chronicle and other news outlets reported that the bodies of Hamilton 50 and 44-year-old Monica Jordan were discovered Sunday at a home in Texas, Pearland, Texas, just south of Houston. Also in the home was the couple's young child, who was unharmed. Investigators told the Chronicle it appeared to be a murder-suicide. Hamilton was shot several times, and Jordan died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, the newspaper reported. Now, Hamilton was an 11th round draft pick of the Milwaukee Brewers in 1986. He made his major league debut in 1988 and became a big league regular during the second half of the 1990 season. He was a strong defensive player with speed who manned all three outfield positions. He batted .291 during a playing career that began with parts of 7 seasons in Milwaukee before stints with the Mets, Rockies, Giants, and Rangers. He appeared in the postseason 4 times with 3 different clubs, including in 2000 with the New York Mets, for whom he played in the World Series. He hit 51 home runs and had 454 RBIs and 163 stolen bases in 1,328 regular season games. And as of late, Rich, he was, of course, an analyst on the MLB network on a number of their shows, and just from all accounts, a very nice guy. And I'm not going to get into it here, but things have come out about the girlfriend or the wife, whatever she was, and just a sad case that he got involved, it appears, with the wrong person, and it cost him his life in the long run. Just a well-respected, well-liked guy. The guys in MLB really loved him and are so saddened by this loss. And you just never know, Rich.
Yeah, it's a very sad event, and we're hearing it quite a lot more in sports these days. And it's a true mirror of society. Sports is part of society, and it's just a shame that these things are happening more and more, and it's senseless, really. Yeah,
it certainly is, Rich. And our condolences go out to the family, and I believe they had a memorial service or a funeral today or yesterday. So just a sad thing. 50 years old, such a young man, and to have this happen.
Yes, indeed. So we extend our condolences out to the family there. What a shame. It's a tough way to leave this world, that's for sure.
Yes. And Rich, you've got a story about somebody, an organization going after the Cleveland Baseball Club?
Yeah, the Cleveland Indians have have come under fire lately by a number of groups. This isn't the first group. It's a religious group. They want the Cleveland Indians to drop their name and their mascot, which, of course, is the logo of the Cleveland Indians, called Chief Wahoo. Over the years, a lot of different groups have tried unsuccessfully to get the Indians to lose their name as well as the logo. So this is just another attempt this year by a different group. 1 year ago, it was a senator from Ohio, a Democratic senator from Cincinnati, who introduced a resolution to encourage the baseball team to adopt a new name and mascot. So, yeah, it looks like the Cleveland Indians under fire from special interest groups, just as the Washington Redskins are lately in the last couple of years. You never heard this years ago, Gary. It was just a baseball team, and I don't see what the big fuss is all about myself.
It's getting crazy, Rich, and they're going to say that we don't understand and all of this, but come on, it's the name of a team. It's a logo, and one of the best logos, I must say, of all in all baseball. And look, nobody goes after the Chicago Blackhawks, and I guess they're not derogatory, but why is Indians derogatory? It's just saying what they are. So.
Yeah, or the Washington Redskins, for example. It's just amazing how public interest and things like that change over the years. We'll have to see how this works out. But the Indians have had this for quite some time now. So I think it's going to be a bigger backlash that's been started in the last few months about this now. But it seems like every year there's a new group that picks this up, and so far they haven't been successful. But I still don't think that it should be changed, and I can't see the big hullabaloo about this.
Well, I have a solution for the Washington Redskins. They should take their logo and stick a potato on the side of it, and then just say, "What? We're talking about Redskin potatoes. What are you talking about here?" And
exactly
where they keep their name, and all they're doing is making a small change to their logo. That's what I would do. But I guess Cleveland, if they ever decided years ago in the 1800s, the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were the Cleveland Spiders. I guess they could go back to that. But then, will we have animal rights groups out there protesting or arachnophobic groups, or it's just getting crazy in this country with all of these special interests wanting their own way, and honestly, it's tiresome. It's just getting ridiculous. I mean, what's next? I don't like the name Orioles. Are we going to have bird watchers not happy with that? Blue Jays. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it never seems like it ends.
It's
just a little wacky.
Yeah. What about Yankees? Maybe I don't like that term.
Yeah. Another note here, Gary. This wasn't in my notes, but the Atlantic League that recently hooked up with Major League Baseball, an official way, are going to start using patriotic baseballs. They're going to have red, white, and blue baseballs being used in the league. Of course, it'll be red and blue stripes in the stitching, surrounded by that white ball, which is pretty nice. I don't have a schematic to put up on YouTube for you, but just search it out, Atlantic League new baseball, and it's pretty colorful. It's very nice.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a great idea. And they're one of those leagues we've talked about, minor leagues, and they are essentially an independent league, which I guess some people say is close to AAA, or it may be between AA and AAA, sort of an in between now. But it's pretty neat that they're going to do something like that. So, and we have a team out here that draws very well, very successful, the Long Island Ducks. And, of course, there's a lot of teams in the Atlantic League that do quite well. The Somerset Patriots and, I can't remember them offhand now. Sugarland Skeeters, I think, is one. It's
Atlantic City used to have a team in that.
The Surf.
Yeah.
So it's a well thought out league, well planned out, and I think they've got 8 teams, and they've kept with their 8 teams, and that trying to expand the product and everything, and it's working out great for them.
It certainly is. So plenty of baseball to go around, minor leagues as well as the independent league called the Atlantic League, and there's a couple across the Midwest and the West also. So get out there and patronize baseball wherever it happens to be. Gary, we're going to just segue into some of the standings here. And how about that American League East? It's one of the most volatile and entertaining baseball stories of the year.
It certainly is, Rich, and we've got Baltimore on top again. Where the heck did they come from?
Yeah, and it's one game separates the 4 teams out of the 5 in the American League East. It's amazing. Didn't realize this had happened because I'm kind of a National League man myself. But it's the Orioles, the Rays, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays, as we're talking about this here on June 30th, 2015. And the Boston Red Sox, they got a terrible record, but they're only 7 games out. So there's still a sense that the Red Sox could do something this year.
They're still in that race, and it doesn't seem as if anybody wants to win it. But unbelievable what's going on this year.
Yeah, and then we'll dip down into the American League Central. The Royals currently holding the top spot there. That's another big surprise. Right on top of the Twins, of course. The Twins are 5.5 games back, and I don't think anybody recognized the Twins or the Royals as 2 of the top teams that would be making a move in this, Gary. So
no, I don't think so, Rich.
The Tigers in the center of it all, 6 games back. The Cleveland Indians 11 games back, so they're not completely out of it either. They're in the AL Central.
Yeah, it's like everybody's alive this year, it seems, and that's a good thing for baseball.
Yes, it is. Out west, of course, it's still the younger crew leading the way. The Houston Astros, been a good change for them, leading the Los Angeles Angels by 4 games here. And little news out of Los Angeles or Anaheim, where the Angels actually play. Not too happy with their manager, Socia, anymore out there, Gary.
Yeah, I think he's losing a little bit of that luster, and who knows? Maybe he's just overstayed his welcome. People don't last in a city like they used to years and years ago. You could really make a career, but now it doesn't seem to work that way. Not that he hasn't had a nice career, but especially out there, maybe it's time to move on for Mike Socia.
That's for sure. We'll have to keep our eye on that. And Gary, thinking of our YouTube video we're doing tonight, what's that nice hat you're wearing tonight?
Well, this is the New York Met home hat, and it's got a patch on one of this side.
I noticed that.
It's a little commemorative from Mike Piazza Day when they not retired, but made him a member of the Mets Hall of Fame. So it's got a 31 on it, if you can see that.
Yeah, very nice. Very sharp.
And that's the Mike Piazza hat.
Was one of my favorite players over the years.
Certainly was. I love those catchers, and he was one of the best hitting catches of all time.
Yes, he was. Well, let's kick on over to the National League East. It's the Washington Nationals, 42-34. They're making a little run at this. They have a nice 22-14 home record, but they're not coming anywhere near those New York Mets at 29-11 at home. They're definitely the hometown crowd favorite.
Well, that's for sure, except they're 500 on the road, the Nationals, and the Mets are terrible on the road at 11-26. So that's really the difference there now. And had the Mets played up to this point a little bit better on the road, they could be running away really with this division. But Washington's starting to get hot. They've been getting some great pitching. And the Mets have won 4 in a row going into tonight's action, and they too have been getting a lot of great pitching. So I don't think they're going away. They have fantastic pitching. Both teams do. And, you got Atlanta there too. They're hanging around. They just can't seem to get over the 500 mark. They seem to be lingering a little bit under 500. And, of course, Miami just lost Stanton, so that's going to really – and they're 11.5 back. And sorry, Rich, but the Phillies, I don't think they're going to make a second-half run either at anybody. But it looks like there's a possibility it could be a 2-team race in the National League East.
It certainly looks like that. And unless you have the Braves turn it around, they've been known to have a great second half as well. So keep our eyes on the National League East. Over in the Central Division, it's the first team to win 50 games this year. The Cardinals at 51-24, winners of their last 6. And as you said, Gary, they're on a roll, 8-10 in their last 10.
And
8-2, rather.
And Rich, they've got a 9-game lead, and I don't know if you want to give them the title already, but they're just blowing everybody away. But Pittsburgh's made a nice recovery to get 9 games back. It sounds a little odd, but they were quite a few games under 500, and now they're 9 games over 500. So they really made a good turnaround, Pittsburgh, and I believe they're leading the wild card in the National League. So, and look, the Cubbies are still up there. They're above 500. They've been struggling, 4-6 in their last 10, and they lost 5 in a row. I hope that we can make it 8 in a row as they're playing the Mets for 3 games. So maybe the Mets can sweep them and keep their losing streak going. The Cubbies, they're kind of doing the same thing the Mets are doing. They're not hitting right now, but Cincinnati is there at 35-40 there. I don't see them putting anything together. They were just they were here this weekend and were just awful, I thought. They just Joey Votto was absolutely terrible. He made a couple of errors and just dropped the ground ball. And this guy was a Gold Glover. And, man, I don't know, it must have been a weak couple of years for first baseman if he won a Gold Glove. And Milwaukee Brewers are going to be selling heavily, I think, in the next few weeks because they're out of it as well. And out in the West, Rich, the Dodgers are still on top, but those San Francisco Giants breathing down their neck.
Yeah, it looks like a 2-horse race out there in the West. The Diamondbacks 5 games back. San Diego Padres, a lot of people had them high on their lists this year. They made some good acquisitions, but so far they're not turning in too good of a performance at 37 wins and 41 losses and trailing the field, probably out of it, but you never know. They're 10 games under 500. 33-43 is the Colorado Rockies. So there's our look for you at all the teams as we near the July 4th holiday, and only another 10 days from there, Gary will be into the All-Star break.
Yeah, and our next show should be interesting because by then we should have the All-Star selections and everything like that. We may have to do a special edition during the week once the All-Star picks come out, but I think it's starting to shake out a little bit different now. I think the commissioners throwing away, if you will, of 6 million votes really made a difference. And I think the people are ticked off now and got out and voting out some of those Royals out of position. I don't think they made an announcement this week on the numbers, who's where. At least I haven't seen it. And it's going to come down to what the people want and what's going to happen in this final week now. So if you haven't voted yet online, you can vote, what is it, 125 times? No, it's only 35, but you can have 135 Gmail email addresses, excuse me, and vote 35 times each for each address. So if you really want to get somebody in there, that's what you got to do if you got the time, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think I voted once this year. I used to like to punch a paper ballot at the stadium, but I don't know, the internet with millions and millions and millions of votes, it just kind of doesn't do it for me.
Well, they like the idea of the numbers. They love those vast numbers, and that's why they've got the 65, the 35 votes that you can do, because as we said, people have 4 and 5 emails. They might vote onto each email, and then they've got these vast numbers coming in. But they're really false numbers if you think about it, because people can make up an email address just to get it, and who wants to sit there? I mean, I did it. I voted a couple of times, but I got to tell you, I don't know if it's me, my computer, my bandwidth, my internet. I don't know what. But you go there and you fill it out, and it's pretty easy. It's fun. It's enjoyable. Then you go to submit it, and they got them stupid, where you got to put the code in or something to prove that you're human. Yeah. And it never takes it half the time. And you're sitting there typing it. I mean, I went to the where it tells you what it is and typed it in, and it still said not acceptable or whatever it tells you. And then after a while, I said, well, this is ridiculous. I don't want to sit here all night. So who is sitting there? And they got to have some kind of program that they fill it out once and it just keeps repeating it and fooling this thing. I don't know. Make it 5 votes per person.
Somebody's figured out a way to game it for sure with all the millions of votes. Sure, there's not people just sitting there typing away, voting for players around the clock.
No. Unless you got a group of people that are doing it at the same time and they switch off, But no, it's got to be some kind of program that they're using that does it all automatically.
That's for sure. Well, there's somebody's going to be $50,000 richer in this story here, Gary. Our next story up here on our special 4th of July edition here of MLB This Week. And it's from a baseball card. It's going to be auctioned off soon. A Brooklyn Atlantics was the name of the team. Goes way back to the 1860s, a pre-Civil War baseball team card. It was hiding in a secret drawer of a bedroom set and between the pages of a photo album, been saved for years in a family. And a gentleman's mother gave it to him about 25 years ago. The gentleman is 75 years old now, and he wants to cash in on this card now, and it's going to go to auction in the next few weeks. It's going to sell for up to $50,000 or more. It's just amazing picture there of a really old baseball team that got together and played around the time of the Civil War. So 150-year-old card fetching almost 50 grand there.
And that's all it's going to get is 50 grand.
Well, it's not in the greatest of shape.
Okay.
It's not like the old Honus Wagner cards that you remember reading about most of the time on the internet when they go for sale. I think they go for a lot more than this.
Millions, I think, don't they?
Yeah, certain cards are tucked away and found every now and again. Old cigarette trading cards, for the most part, I think they were years ago.
Mhm.
But yeah, this one is a team photo card, so it holds a little less value than, say, like an individual player from a tobacco product.
Right.
But a similar card, it was mentioning in the article, had sold for $92,000 just recently at a Maine auction, a post-Civil War card from 1865 from the Brooklyn Atlantics as well. So goes way back. The first organized leagues uh, organized around 1859 that they can trace back to. So, yeah, baseball has a far reach back into history.
And the Atlantics were really a big name club. I don't know if they were pro in their time or semi-pro, but big in Brooklyn, and of course Brooklyn is really a big baseball town. People don't really realize it, but of course the Dodgers all those years, and really and before that the trolley Dodgers. That's really how they got their names, because people used to dodge trolleys. So thus the name Dodgers came out of that. Well, I guess when the trolleys went away, so did that in the name. But just reading here in 1857, it looks like the Atlantics finished in first place, 5-0 in match play against the principal clubs of the league that they were playing in at the time. So a lot of people don't realize too that there's a lot of baseball history in the Northeast besides Cooperstown. There's a lot in New Jersey and in New York, around the New York City area, and really, and even upstate. So baseball's big in the old days all across the country. I don't think people realized it as much.
That's for sure. Get out and support your local baseball teams. I kind of wish baseball never went away in Atlantic City. They still have the stadium there, but it just sits unused most of the time. Kind of a sad occurrence what's happened there, but get out there and support it.
And I guess they just couldn't draw there, Rich.
Yeah, it was a combination of things, not drawing and the money aspect of it. They couldn't afford to field these teams and all the expenses that go along with it when you're not having that tremendous income and whatnot and sponsorships. And yeah, it went away. So you have a local team, you like to visit it, pay a visit down there and make sure it stays in your town.
And just staying with the Atlantic City, it's really a shame too. Look what's happening with the casinos, and I don't think they did it right, Rich. I just they were onto something there. They had the boardwalk, they had the casinos, they could have had a team there, and I think they never did anything about the areas, fixing up some of the areas, because you know yourself, you go couple of blocks from the casinos and it's not a good area to be walking around in.
Yeah, they've had their struggles, although over the years they've improved it, and it's still very much on the way up, even though it has hit bottom. But it's still an entertainment capital. A lot of the entertainment still rolls through there, as well as the casinos. Most, the remaining ones are still open and they're very nice. Still a destination resort. It's always been a place that you go to for the beach and the boardwalk. And I don't think gambling could support it in the end 100% anymore, because all of the other areas in the surrounding metropolitan area of Philadelphia, Baltimore, even New York for that matter, they got the Foxwoods and drew a lot of people away from Atlantic City, but it's always got that seaside resort aspect to it. So I don't think it'll ever be down and out, but it's on the rebuild, they say.
Well, I certainly hope so, because I've been down there a number of times and really had good times down there and enjoyed it. And I like the marina area too, over where the Trump Marina hotel was and casino. It's no longer the Trump; it's something else now.
Yeah, it's the Golden Nugget now. They've really made that really improve there.
And the other one that's over there, the Steve Wynn one, the
Borgata is nice.
oh yeah,
there.
the Borgata is beautiful. That's a nice place. So I hope they do come back. And but you know what hurt them too, Rich? As you were saying, all of these other towns and states getting casinos, and Connecticut was the first one, and then even here in New York now, we have one that's fairly close now, that they don't have the board games. They don't have the table games, but they have reasonable facsimiles that get by, especially with the roulette you can play. It's mostly video slot machine games, but they do have, as I say, a video roulette that's pretty realistic, and gets a lot of play, and it's a pretty nice place, and so that's the area is decent, so that hurt, I think, Atlantic City, because instead of getting on a bus and traveling for 3 hours from New York, you can just go locally and lose your money.
That's for sure. And that's usually what happens. So my tip, if you do go, have some fun along the way. Just don't go to lose your money, because it's so easy to do that.
Yeah, and just have a set amount that you're ready to lose. And when it loses, go enjoy yourself doing something else.
That's for sure. Well, Gary, you have our final story of the night here on this podcast for MLB This Week. And it's an uplifting story here.
Well, Rich, did you ever wonder why there's never been a woman playing baseball?
That's a good question.
Well, we may see something in the future. I don't know if it's going to be this particular woman, but a young girl, Melissa Mayeux, a shortstop on the French U18 junior national team, became the first known female baseball player to be added to MLB's international registration list, which means she will be eligible to be signed by a major league club on July the 2nd. International prospects, Mayeux included, are typically added to the international registration list at MLB sanctioned events after verifying their dates of birth and citizenship. While anyone can technically be added to the list, only those who have the potential to actually be signed are customarily registered. I guess that lets us out, Rich. Is it possible that Mayeux will be signed? It's possible. Anything is possible. She's a girl that speaks a little English, is unaware that her presence on the registry might be seen as newsworthy, but all she wants to do is play ball. And she's had a presence on the international youth scene for a while, and is simply focused on keeping her baseball career going. MLB Director of International Game Development, Mike McKellen, has been watching her play for 2 years. So she must be good if they've been watching her. And to put her on this list, it's quite a big honor. So we'll see where this plays out. I guess it's time, if they can handle it, to allow a woman in. It's going to be confusing in the locker room. But look, remember, they thought that when they had the women's sports writers, and they worked that all out. So I don't know what do you do in a locker room, but I'm not sure if the wives would be crazy about it, but if you remember the movie 42, Jackie Robinson used to wait and shower by himself because he didn't want to offend anybody, thinking that his color was going to come off and get on them or something, some such nonsense. So it could be the same thing with women until it happens, and we see what goes on, I mean, there are ways to work in these modern stadiums now. I'm sure they can have her dressed in a separate room that's decent, and maybe even shower in a separate area.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen eventually.
Yep. One of these days, that's a great story, and we'll have to see what happens. Of course, a lot of stories about Monet Davis as well. She's only 13 or 14 right now, but yeah, as you said, Gary, I think one day there will be a lady baseball player.
And I think it's probably going to be a middle infielder of some sort, because they usually have smaller stature, and perhaps that'll be the best. Now, I don't know if you remember, Rich, back in the 90s, the Coors had that women's baseball team that went around playing, and I remember watching them at Shea Stadium. They played a bunch of all-star, not old-timers, but, different Mets players. Buddy Harrelson was played in that game, and some guys that worked for the Mets that had played college ball. So they were pretty, they were decent ball players, and they had one pitcher in particular that could really bring it. She had some arm on her, and I can't remember the name, and I don't remember, but it was the Coors Light. I don't know, maybe they called themselves the Silver Bullets or something, and they went around and played a lot of exhibition games, and I think that was I mean, there's been attempts at women's baseball league. Of course, during the war, the famous movie, A League of Their Own. And I just wondered why nobody's really tried that again. With all these international leagues and independent leagues, I should say, and all of that going on for men's baseball, I'm surprised that nobody's done that to start a women's league. And I'm surprised that in the independent league, somebody hasn't found a good women's ball player yet. Maybe they just haven't come across one.
That's for sure. Well, we'll keep our eye on this story for you. And we want to invite you to check out the podcast wherever you find great podcasts. We're on iTunes Music Store. We're over at Stitcher Radio. And, of course, our own website, MLBThisWeek.com. You can also catch our show out at baseballtalkradio.com. It's a plethora of different shows, European shows, Japanese baseball, baseball talk all around the clock, fantasy baseball, you name it. So check it out, baseballtalkradio.com. And Gary's going to be visiting over the 4th of July holiday for Baseball Talk Radio, getting some interviews with some great players. And Gary, I can hardly wait to hear your interviews and things that you come across.
Well, I hope I can come across some. There may be some time restrictions, and hopefully I can fit in the window of time. But I'm going to try at the Hudson Valley Renegades game against the Brooklyn Cyclones. And, of course, I do a Cyclones podcast, if anybody's interested, called Cyclones Fevercast. And I was able to get some media passes to get in and hopefully get some interviews and for those young kids that are up and coming that we'll be talking about on this show in 4 or 5 years, I'm sure.
Yes, indeed. Well, thanks for listening to this patriotic edition of MLB This Week, the MLB This Week show. And we're going to lead out tonight's show with some patriotic music for you. And Gary, have a great 4th of July, and we'll talk to everybody after the holiday.
All right, Rich, have a good one.